Hello, YouTube family. You guys have been amazing to us. You've been watching us, you've been helping us, following us, subscribing to us, commenting to us. Thank you so much for tuning into
The Mobility
Mobility Bros.
Bros.
I am Coach Cliff. If you don't know, now you know. And I am with my brother, the host, Ron Hilton. How you doing today, Ron?
I'm doing good, man. Doing really good, man. Had a great workout this morning, and my youngest daughter turned 18 yesterday.
Congratulations. Happy
So,
birthday.
but her birthday is like for 2 days, right? So it was like 2 days of like doing everything, right?
Yes.
Taking her to a favorite bookstore. She got her first tattoo. It was like $300. I was like, oh my God, why you gotta come? You gotta come out the gate with a $300 tattoo?
Hey,
At 18?
18. It's different. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. That's awesome, man.
Yeah, so it's great, man. It's really good to see that growth, and which kind of leads into our topic today: growth spurts and growing pains.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Before we go to that, first thing we want to do is thank our sponsors. Thank you so much to our sponsors, Be Legendary Athletic Apparel, for amazing athletic wear. If you're looking for hats, hoodies, shirts, they have it all. They have an amazing March 17th a St. Patty's Day shirt. If you want to see that shirt, please go in the description below. We really appreciate you supporting it. And also, thank you so much to Fitness Essentials. Fitness Essentials is a online, in-person personal training fitness program and personal training live session with me. You can get workouts, you can get program design, you can get any information that you're asking about when it comes to your fitness and wellness. We also tie in with not nutritionists, so we can help you partner with a nutritionist and make sure that you're on track to getting to your goals. So thank you so much for our sponsors. But now let's go back to the show.
yeah. So
So
what do we talk about though in our show, Cliff?
we are talking about pain reductions. We usually talk about mobility. We always talk about athletic mindset. We talk about the pain management. This is going to be good about pain management today. We always talk about the theories and thoughts and processes of our practitioners and the mindsets of our clients and our members. And we
Awesome.
want to talk about some young members, or maybe you have some young children that wake up in the middle of the night. They're in pain, they're crying, you don't know why, but their knee hurts. You get out that Robitussin, you get the Vicks out, you get all the things out, you get that, the Tiger Bomb, whatever you got in your hand, your
Robitussin.
house, you get it
Listen,
out and you start rubbing on
side
those
note,
joints.
I swear, if you grew up in an African American family, Robitussin cured everything. Just let y'all know, it cured everything.
Robitussin was the cure for all
I
things.
don't know why, but for some reason, Robitussin cured everything. So, just a little side note.
Yeah, I mean, if you know, you know, baby. If you know, you know. You're the 90s babies in African American households, man. You drink a lot of Robitussin.
Hilarious, man. So this topic that we're talking about. So I maybe you might have a little more experience than I do. I mean, I've been in this industry going on 20 years. Um, Starting out as a personal trainer, I working in a YMCA. I did run a kids program, a kids strength conditioning program. Um, but I was still very new, right? I probably had about maybe 10 kids, and honestly, we mostly just got on the machines, and I just kept it light. I always did the same thing. I had them twice a week, and I just kind of rotated them out in machines. Once in a while, I took them down to weight room and just showed them some light stuff. But I never had the knowledge of like growing pains or like the difference between like a girl or a boy when they're growing. I was reading this article. So I got this great article, Cliff. I know I was telling you it was through it's called healthychild.org, and they have different ones, but this one, excuse me, specifically its effects on puberty and sports performance and what parents need to know, right? So I'm just
Mhm.
gonna, if you don't mind, I'm just gonna just read off some topics, and then we can just kind of go.
Yeah, follow
So
along.
the growth and mature grow. the growing and mature skeleton. So girls are different than boys, right? This is what the article is saying. Girls, on average, rapid growth occurs around ages 11 and 11 and a half, but can, uh, but, uh, but, but it can begin early as 8 or as late as 14, right? With boys, usually um, trail behind about 2 years. This is why 13-year-old girls can, for a time, be a head taller than 13-year-old boys, which I thought that was interesting, and I always kind of felt like girls had like a little bit more of a more of a mature growth spurt over boys,
Mm.
um, and so then it goes into saying so adolescent growth spurt. So for going to changes in athletic performance during adolescent growth spurts. So AGS, a quick increase in height and weight affects the body's center of gravity. Sometimes the brain has to adjust to this higher observation point, and teen may be a bit clumsy, right? So now one thing the article talked about is the teen being clumsy and it could affect the sport. This phase, especially noticeable in sports that require good balance and body control, figure skating, diving, gymnastics, basketball. Um, then it goes into growth plates. So this is just again really quick. Children's bones are different from adults. Inside each end of their bones is a section of cartilage that eventually turns into bone when they are finished growing. This section is of cartilage is called growth plates. Is actually responsible for growth. It's much more delicate than the surrounding bone, muscles, tendons, or ligaments. I did not know that. So that's some information. Um, and then one last thing, it goes into preventing ACL injuries as preteens enters into puberty and grows taller and heavier. Their risk of anterior cruciate ligament injuries increase. The ACL is one of the main ligaments providing stability in the knee. And then last top, according to the 2024 AAP clinical report, ACL injury risk begins to increase significantly at 12 and 13 years of age in girls and 14 to 15 years of age in boys. So I did not know that either. So
Mm.
those just some interesting topics and tidbits on like growth spurts and when kids are age. So I guess for me, being in the athletic uh, and rehab and performance industry, and when I working with kids, I just especially when they're growing, I just never thought like you got to be a little bit more delicate, a little bit more conscious of like what you're doing, how you're loading them up, and I think as an experienced trainer and someone who does training and recovery work and rehab work, you just got to have it's almost like you got to have some common sense when you're working with the youth. Wouldn't you agree?
I would agree 100%. Now, I've had experiences working with youth for a long time. I've also been in the industry moving on to 2 decades. And with that, we've done a lot of different programs. We had programs for youth starting at 12, 13 years old. Um, and we would cap that group from the 13-year-olds to about the 15-year-olds, and then we'd have the 16 to 18-year-olds. Simply because, like you said, the growth spurt and the difference in the bone and how the body is growing and where the body is at that time. Um, we didn't really throw kids in machines in my programs. What we did was we taught kids how to move their body because of that clumsiness that
Yeah,
was
yeah,
spoken about, right? So it was all about body awareness, making sure they understood how to do a proper squat, a proper push, a proper pull. They knew how to gait properly. They can land on their ankle properly in a sprint or in a balance. And we had ice skaters, we had golfers, we had soccer players. And we did some strength training stuff with them, right? Like we just learned how to do a pull-up, where it's upper body and shoulder and form, learn how to do a row.
yeah.
We had cable machines instead of machines that they would sit in, they still would have to
Correct.
stand, but they would have to go into different planes of motion while they stood or while they lunged or while they squat. And so there was a lot of neurological connection, a lot of mind body, experiences with our clients. Now, I also have children, and I have a young son who has growing pains. He just, some nights he'll wake up just upset. And if you look around and you try to do the research on like what actually causes the growing pains to hurt, the research is muddy. There's theories out there, but there's no like super formal evidence, right? A lot of
Okay.
people say growing pains is soreness. Growing pains is if you've activated your muscles, or your kid played in the park too much, or they're over sore. And so that's what they're seeing and that's what they're feeling. But like you said, with the growth plate, you have to think, right? My theory is that the bone in the body and the muscle tissue in the body is expanding,
Absolutely.
right? Because obviously our kids aren't going to be 3 foot forever. Some people are, and this is not specifically talking about that population, but not all of our kids are, look at your 24-year-old. When he was 6, he was adorable and he was the size of your stomach. Now he's a whole head taller than you, right? At least for my position. And so I would think like if you had bone stretch and muscle tissue stretch and ligaments and tendons now are stretching or condensing, the joints are going to feel that. The nerves are going to feel that. The nervous system is going to report that to the brain in some way,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah,
you're going to feel that change, right? And so that's where some of those pains come from. I don't think it's just I was running around and I'm sore. I think like you're literally feeling your leg growth and your knee growth and your hip growth, and your spinal growth, and some people are way more sensitive to their bodies than others, and some people will feel that very much more than others. It's very interesting, the other part of the topic of the article, how boys and girls are different. I also recognize that when it comes to sex hormones and puberty, whether
mhm.
it's adolescents or adults, we always say like, oh, the girls are going to be a little more mature than the guys and things like that, right?
Yeah,
And so
yeah,
it's
yeah.
interesting that even there's a 2-year speed up. But when you really think about it, you also think about the biological makeup of a female and how their ovaries and their sex hormones
Yeah,
are going to
everything.
be.
Like even like when you look at how their growth, like their hips starts widening out. So there's so much more that goes on. And then it's so it's interesting. I was listening to uh I can't remember. I think it was. I honestly can't remember what athlete or who I was. This is some time ago, but she was saying, and it again another aha moment. She was saying, growing up as a female athlete, it's so much different than a guy, right? So
Mm.
it's like their body is developing so much more different than a man, and then and then it comes down to like as far starts even when they menstruate, right? When they go through menstruation, and if I say did I say
You said administration. I don't think
listen?
that's politically correct,
So
man.
when
Don't get
they're
us
having
canceled. No, I'm
when
just kidding. And we're canceled. No, I'm
I
just
can't
kidding.
I can't. You know what? It's so funny. I did a post yesterday, and it was about having garbage in, garbage out, and someone called me out because I said garage in, and garbage out. Like so, it's like my verbiage and my listen. I'm a hot mess sometimes, people.
Hey, if you're a hot mess, hit like and subscribe. That was a
Yeah,
great time to like
yeah,
and
yeah.
subscribe.
So
We
when
love
women,
to have some fun in the show.
yeah, yeah. So when they're having their period, like it's they go to this point where no matter what, they still have to perform. So if their body is going through
Yeah.
this whole change in their body as an athlete, as a kid growing up, as a teenager, and as a woman, all these changes that a guy does not have to go through, they have to still deal with these changes and still perform, especially when they go through get through their teen years and they become into a young adult, and now they're maybe playing in high school or say D1 D2 college. No, it doesn't matter. You still have to show up and play, right? So it's
Yeah,
just
it doesn't matter if it's the end of the month on a Saturday. There's a game,
yeah,
right? And so shout out to our last show with the amazing Chantal, because she really informed us a lot about what women go through based on her life experience.
Yeah.
So if you haven't seen that, please check it out. It might pop up on the screen. If not, just go down and check out the last show. 100% agree. And it's something to recognize, right? So if you're having a child that's upset and crying and really suffering because they have growth spurts, what are some things that you think we can do to help the child be more comfortable? Because I know parents must have a lot of questions on that end.
Mhm.
Have you had to experience this with your children at all?
So it's just interesting, I raised three kids, and none of them ever had any issues. For exception, I know one of the topics we're going to talk about, and we can just hit just a little bit today, is Osgood-Schlatter's disease. So my oldest daughter was heavily into cheerleading, and then Osgood-Schlatter's disease is a form of knee pain that you get while you're going through your growth spurt. And this is another topic we're going to probably talk about in one of our shows. But outside of that, and it's just interesting because no one knew really what it was, and then we took it to like 3, 4 different doctors, and one doctor said, "Oh, it's Osgood-Schlatter's disease." I was like, "What is that?" I've been, up to that point, I probably, I didn't have all the knowledge and experience I have now,
Yeah.
but it was just something. To be honest with you, it was just something she just had to deal with, and just until she got older, and then it just stopped.
Mm,
So outside of that, none of my kids ever never complained. My son was heavily active into the two sports he played was basketball and football growing up. And then my daughter, up until COVID, my youngest daughter, excuse me, my youngest daughter up until COVID was from age 5 up until 15, 14, 15, was very big into competitive dance. And again,
mm.
she never complained about growth spurts or pain or anything like that. So I think maybe it just kind of every kid goes through it different.
That's true. It's very interesting. In my situation, my wife grew up with it. Um, I had it for a very little bit of time. My oldest son, uh, we used to rub like child safe Vicks because there's like the Vicks that we put for
Robitussin?
adults. Basically, we'd rub it on his knees and his ankles.
Yeah.
My youngest, that's gonna be 7 right now, he's experienced it at times, and it's just like they can't get comfortable. Their legs just hurting, and they can't really
Yeah.
describe it. And stretching it at that young age, trying to stretch them and keep them to calm down and breathe so you can stretch them can be difficult. So what I would suggest is a couple of things. One, warm compress, something like warm, nothing too hot. If you don't have a warm compress, you could always take a sock, shove some rice in it, tie it up, stick it in the microwave for a very short period of time, and that will absorb heat and it'll hold on to the heat for a good 15 to 20 minutes. And you can use that as a warm compress if you don't have like a heat pad or something electric to use. I also um, do like Vicks or like something really like a menthol like rub, but you
Yeah.
got to be careful with the kids. You don't want to put something that's gonna really turn hot on them and burn them,
Yeah.
right? Because some of those muscle coolant, icy hot kind of things can be a little too hot, not enough
Yeah.
icy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So just be cautious, use common sense with that. And also stretching not just when they're in pain, but stretching them when they're not in pain. My son knows how to do a hamstring stretch, not just reach down and touch your toes, but he can sit and reach. He knows how to do a groin stretch. He knows how to do a quad stretch. Yeah, he's 6 going on 7, but he also knows how to do complicated math problems, right? And count multiply by 10. So if he can do those things, he can stretch his body. So educate your children on some common stretches, nothing too fancy. Don't like stand them up on a Bosu ball, have them touch their nose and kick it like save that for whatever athletic pursuits they may have. Right now, we're just trying to reduce pain, right? So
Mhm.
teach them how to stretch, teach them how to stand against the wall, hold their leg to their butt and squeeze their hamstring and make sure their knees not drifting out from the middle of their body. Keep them in alignment. Teach them hamstring stretches, how to reach down, touch your toes, how to sit and reach if reaching down, touch your toes are uncomfortable. Teach them piriformis stretches. If you like yoga movements, A pigeon pose is great for the hips. These kids sit a lot because they go to school now, so they're sitting way more than they used to. So go ahead, teach them that, and teach them how to stretch your chest in a doorway. You know, they're not going to be big enough to put both hands in the doorway, but one at a time, right? Easy stretches to do, one at a time. Just open them up. Teach them how to do a child pose so they can get their lats stretched out. These are all basic, non like invasive, very low impact or no impact stretches that can help them manage their growth. Because I think when I see my kids and I'm like, yo, how are you out of your pants already? I just bought your pants
Mm.
3 weeks ago, and they're high waters. You know what I mean? Your ankles are out of them. There's not covering your ankles
Yeah,
if you
yeah,
don't have
yeah, yeah.
Tims.
I
Like,
remember those days.
and then next thing I notice, that correlates with, oh man, my legs are killing me. It's 11:30 in the morning at night. Everybody wants to go to bed, and he's waking up because he has leg pain. So if you've ever experienced growth pain yourself, please write down some things in the comments. We know that we're not touching everything. Maybe there's some things that you have. Maybe there's some traditional remedies that you guys did in your families, from your cultures or your ethnicities or your backgrounds. We want to hear from you. So if
Absolutely.
growth pains is something you've suffered from or your kids are dealing with, or if you have great ideas about how to help someone who may be suffering from growth pain, please put them down in the comments below. We want to know what you're going through, how you're solving the problem. Help us help you help others, right? So communicate, share, like, and share. We really appreciate that. And hit that notification. You know we're here every Monday. Um, so when you were training your kids, you said you had them all on machines. How
Yeah.
old were the average kid?
I would say between maybe like I think I mean this is years ago, but if I had to guess or remember,
Going back in the
oh, we're
day.
going back. Like I said, I rarely had. I mean, I was probably maybe 2 years in, and I didn't know it. I didn't know what I didn't know, right? So I just
Uh-huh.
thought whatever I got 10 kids. This is the easiest thing I could do. We're at a YMCA twice a week. I would say as young as 8 and as old as 12, maybe give or take.
Mm,
So and I know it was a cute little program I had going on. I thought it was cool, and I did it twice a week. And but I was still trying to learn it. And if I had to go back and do things different, what I know now,
yes.
I wouldn't put them on machines. I am like I'm the anti machine man now, right? I am. I'm so different from where I started, as a now all the knowledge and experience I had, all the education I've gotten over, going on 15 years. Um, Everything's so much different now. So, um, but yeah, I- and then moving forward, when I actually got into working in a functional fitness facility, um, I just strictly worked with adults, and it was not because I didn't want to work with kids. It was just timing, right? Especially in the summertime. A lot of kids. My my mentor Todd Cambio, who we had on the show, the Red Gorilla.
The Red Gorilla.
Um, he had a huge program for kids in the summertime. I mean, it was nothing for him to have 15, 20 kids in the gym working at
Wow.
one time. Yep. So, but that was his jam. He was a high school science teacher. That was his trade. He loved working with kids. He taught football. I mean, that's his background. He played D1 football at URI,
Mm, mm.
and so he knew how to get these kids strong. He understood their bodies. Um, so it was just a little different. But I actually enjoyed working with adults, especially when I worked with female clients. Um, I always enjoyed working and getting females stronger, faster, moving. That was something I enjoyed doing. So yeah, but if I and to be honest with you, during the height of COVID, I had one. I had a football player that I was working with. He was going into his senior year, and 17, 18 year old. I think it was seven. He was like 17. Um, 6 foot, I think. 230.
Mm,
Big kid, really good
mhm,
dude. And so it was interesting just to work with him. I had no problem with him being in the house training him or training him outside. That was my choice. My wife didn't have an issue with it. But he was struggling because he had the potential to go D1, but he had no film and he had no
Oh,
training, had nothing to get him strong and get him moving. So all I did is I trained him. I strengthened. I did some ballistic work with him, and then once a week I did. We just lifted heavy once a week.
mm, mm.
So I think he was a lineman. So I just trained him. I just trained him like a lineman.
Yeah,
Um,
that's awesome. Get them
so
strong, because
so
that's
that was
probably
yeah, that was the thing. And then he was like, and I believed I did my best to film what he was doing. He was like, I could just, and then he said when they were playing football, they were basically 7-on-7, double masked. They had no gear. They had t-shirts and shorts, and they were playing flag football.
that's what they did during COVID.
Yeah, that's what they did during COVID. They did 7-on-7. They played flag football. He goes, I can't do nothing with that.
Wow, that's insane.
Yeah, yeah,
You don't realize how disruptive and incredibly challenging and how innovative everything had to become because of what the world was going through. And oh my gosh. So I currently work with teens. I work with adolescents. I work with adolescents who are going through a real interesting crossroads right now, you know, because this is another topic that we'll talk on, of course, because I think it's important. Drugs, alcohol, opioids, fentanyl, yeah, that should trouble you. And it's affecting everyone all over this country. I have students that I work with that come all the way from Virginia, South Dakota, Carolina, Brooklyn, New York, Jersey, and all over Jersey, South Jersey, North Jersey, Central Jersey, doesn't matter. Um, and they come into this program for therapy, to rehab, to cleanse, to get themselves clean. Some of them come in through a PHP program, some of them come in through a residential program. And I am responsible for teaching them functional integrative therapy training. I am not a therapist, and I tell them straight up, I am not your therapist, I'm not your counselor, I'm your fitness life coach. And with fitness life coaching, you're going to learn how to get body awareness, you're going to learn how to use mindfulness, and you're going to learn how to use fitness and wellness to regulate your emotional stress, to regulate your emotions, so that when you have urges or when you're going through dark times, rather than running for an easy escape, which doesn't solve the problem, it just limits your ability to deal with it, you now can access a new chapter, a new tool, by using fitness properly, because getting hurt and being in pain isn't the goal for fitness, right? It's
right,
growing
right,
and
right.
learning and knowing your
Growing and
body
learning,
and
especially
feeling and getting that
yes,
self-esteem, that confidence,
especially
pushing yourself beyond what you believe you can and getting that mind change of, holy crap, I just did a personal record, and all that comes with that, right? Also, the science behind the dopamine, the endorphins, all those positive things that you're going to get from training your body. So I work with kids as young as 13 and as old as 18 in that program. And when I went there, there was no program, there was no curriculum. I mean, these kids were doing like boot camp slash CrossFit slash, just get them exhausted with all sorts of movements. There was no balance, there was no correction. People were just moving them, and same with the adults in the program as well. And I came in there with 20 years of history, corrective exercise specialist, functional movement specialist, and that's what I wanted to bring, because these guys aren't training physique. I don't need the exercise science background for physique training. Who cares about their physique? Their physique is shit. They're going through withdrawal. You know what I mean? What they need is to know that they can get through this workout, feel better, not worse. And they come in with knee pain. They come in with nerve damage. They come in with all sorts of things. They come in after overdosing and nearly dying twice before they had to get Narcan, right? Um, Real serious stuff, really sad stuff. and they don't have the support. But they're also athletes. Some of these kids are basketball players and football
Yeah,
players
yeah,
and wrestlers, and volleyball players and soccer players and hockey players. And so I tap into that side of them. And once I tap into that side of them, I start teaching them proper form. Why we use our 5 checkpoint method. I use it with them so that they have an idea. And once they're moving better, yeah, I do have still kids complaining about growing pains. There's some kids that are like perpetually sore, or they have their joints are different, or they have mobility issues, or they don't even know how to move because they do a lunge and they think they're walking on a tightrope and their back ankle is all over the place. And so it's really important, I think, especially if you're dealing with kids with growing pains and you're trying to help them reduce pain, that if they get into a program, before they pick up any weight whatsoever, do not put a 45-pound bar on a kid's shoulder and tell them to squat if you've never seen how they squat just without any
yeah.
weight.
I agree. You got to watch. So to your point, um, you got to watch people's movement patterns first.
Yes.
For kids, because kids can be awkward. They can do that squat, and then all of a sudden their right leg bows out, and you don't know why. You gotta correct that. So, and one thing I learned too. I was listening. I don't remember the gentleman's name, but I was listening to a podcast on a I can't remember his name, but he's a very famous running coach. He trains college and Olympic athletes how to run, right? And he got into a huge soapbox about kids. He says when you're training with kids, stop doing the over like stretching and all the overtraining and all the over stuff like that because they're kids. Just let them have fun, right? Just let them run. Just let them run. Play games with them. Do fun things. He said, you'll figure out their learning pattern, their running pattern, just by that. But when you start loading them up with like a 20, a 10-year old with a 20-minute warm up, he said, once you go past 20 minutes, once you go past 10, 15 minutes, it's not a warm up, it's a workout, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Heck yeah.
So he said you don't want to do that. You want to make sure that when you're working with kids, no matter what the situation is, just let them have fun. A lot of times, you just let them do what they're naturally born to do, which is go play. You just got to
Uh,
find clever ways to do that. So it could be like doing cone drills, which is fun. Like do fun things with them. Do some movement patterns that they enjoy doing. That's fun.
I agree 100%. I think that depending on how young the kid is and what you're doing in the program, I think that's 100% right. And even in this program that I'm in, where these kids are dealing with, tough issues, we don't go right into the workout. We start with mindfulness and, cognitive therapy practices and talk about our issues, and we call out some things and let the kids speak so we can understand what's going on. I want everyone to feel seen, heard, and understood. Once we get through that, then we go into our warm up. The warm up's usually 15 minutes, and it has, all planes of motion. They're going to be in frontal plane, sagittal plane, transverse plane of motion. That way I could see what's going on and I can assess the kids on a daily basis based on their warm up. And that's going to be about 15 minutes. These kids have to be able to have the mindfulness to get through 15 minutes, right? Because they're 13 to 18 years old. They need the time to really warm up. Then from there, we get into the workouts, and the workouts vary. Usually on Mondays, it's like core, control, low impact, and we do a lot more talking and moving. And we talk in between to really make sure that they understand this is, again, not just a gym. This is for your emotional health.
Absolutely.
And then Tuesday and Wednesday, the intensity goes up. Thursday, I let the kids hit the weight room and I tell them these are the things that I want you to work on that we did not really work on yet, or for your posture and control, or for your upper body muscle tissue so that your back is strong and you're not slouching and stuff like that. And then on Friday, it's Fun Friday, and we play. We play,
Nice, nice.
hack and sack, basketball, volleyball. You can do whatever in the gym you want as long as you know what you're doing. You can just chill on the cardio and listen to music. Just move and be active and participate. But it's Fun Friday, and they earn that every week. They earn it by staying clean. And I've had a lot of kids discharge, and they want to go to the gym. They're making fitness a part of their life, and that's what I think it's all about. So whether you're dealing with growth and pains, stuff like that, maybe foam rolling might help, might not. Massage might help, might not. The verdict's still out of, is this a disease? No, it is not a disease that people are suffering from.